Welcome, the anointed ones. They called you paranoid, until reality proved you right. People laugh until the truth crashes into their lives. They mocked your warnings, rejected your insight, and now? They're silent, staring at the chaos they walked into. Studies show, people reject uncomfortable truths, not because they're wrong, but because change is hard. You didn't speak for validation. You spoke from vision. And while they dismissed you, time exposed everything. Now they remember your words, the ones they rolled their eyes at, as the truth they ignored. They're not just regretful. They're humbled. But regret doesn't come with a rewind. And the pain? It's knowing that what they ran from was the very thing that could have saved them. Number 1. The truth you spoke wasn't convenient. Now it's unavoidable. You warned them about the fake friend, the toxic path, the bad deal. They didn't reject you because you were wrong. They rejected you because you made them face truths they weren't ready to change. It was easier to call you negative than to admit they were choosing disaster. But now, in the wreckage, your voice echoes. They remember every smug look, every dismissive laugh, because your truth came from care, not ego. And now, they sit in the storm you tried to help them avoid. Number 2, the masses follow noise. You were the silent thunder. You didn't shout. You didn't perform. You observed, listened, and saw what others missed. But the world rewards volume, not wisdom. So they chased loud lies and flashy promises, and ignored your quiet certainty. Now the noise is gone. The loud ones? Exposed. And in the silence, your truth roars. They remember your soft warnings, your quiet insight, and they finally get it. The irony? What made them dismiss you is now what they respect most. But you don't need their attention. You never did. You weren't selling fantasy, you were living truth. Wisdom isn't loud. Truth doesn't chase applause. Real insight doesn't demand attention, but once the noise fades, only your words remain. And now, those who mocked you are left with silence and regret. Number 3, wisdom sounds like madness until it's too late. People label what they fear. If your truth challenged their comfort, they called it crazy. Not because it was wrong, but because it forced them to confront what they didn't want to see. They laughed, dismissed, mocked. But now, everything you warned them about is happening, just as you said. The fear they feel now isn't just from the chaos outside, but from realizing how blind they were. They replay your words, wishing they had listened. But they can't rewind. And they can't undo the arrogance with which they rejected you. You don't need to explain anything anymore. The truth is undeniable, and so is your clarity. Number 4, they didn't want truth. They wanted comfort. You didn't sugarcoat. You told them what they needed to hear, not what they wanted. That's why they pushed you away. They didn't want to face the risk, the disloyalty, the hard decisions. They wanted reassurance, not reality. And you didn't fit that narrative, so they called you harsh, negative, too serious. But now, the illusion has shattered. The secure job? Gone. The loyal friend? Betrayed. The smart choice? A disaster. Everything you tried to save them from? It's here. Now they sit in the wreckage, haunted by the truth they once dismissed. Because comfort delays pain, but never prevents it. And the twist? You never needed them to believe you. You spoke the truth because it was real. And now that they see it, the only question left is, do you even care anymore? Number 5. Betrayal was the only way they could handle their inferiority. They didn't attack you because you were wrong. They attacked you because you made them feel small. Your wisdom exposed what they lacked, and instead of growing, they lashed out. Mocking you, Twisting your words, turning others against you wasn't about truth. It was about ego. They couldn't rise to your level, so they tried to pull you down. But time did what you didn't have to. It exposed everything. Now, the same people who dismissed you are stumbling through the dark you tried to warn them about. And they know deep down that betraying you didn't elevate them. It revealed them. The irony? They still crave your wisdom. But pride keeps them silent, watching you ascend while they sit in the ruins of their own denial. Number 6. The same people who laughed at you are now imitating you. They didn't just ignore you, they ridiculed you. Your insight was labeled dramatic. Your depth was mocked. Your warnings were dismissed as overthinking. Number 6. The same people who laughed at you are now imitating you. They mocked you, rolled their eyes, made you feel like a fool. Now, they're quoting your words, claiming them as their own. They sound like you, but they still don't get it. They're copying without understanding, imitating without insight. They rejected the truth when it was free, but now they recite it like revelation, pretending they always knew. But you're past needing credit. You weren't speaking for applause. You spoke because you saw. Let them pretend. Let them echo. Because no copy ever carries the power of the original. And you were the original. Number 7. The price of being right is loneliness. Truth isolates. You didn't lose people because you were wrong. You lost them because you refused to lie. You wouldn't sugarcoat. Wouldn't play along. So they turned on you. You lost friends, connections, and opportunities, not for being cruel, but for being clear. And yes, the loneliness hurt. Not because you needed them, but because they couldn't handle truth. But now, they're living in the consequences of their denial, and finally they see. You weren't the problem. They just weren't ready. And the real twist? They want back in. But the question is, do you even want them now? Because you never needed their approval. And by the time they finally understood, you had already moved on. Number 8. They wanted you to fail, but their failure proved you right. They weren't just waiting for your downfall, they needed it. Because if you were right, they'd have to admit they were wrong. And their ego couldn't take that. So they watched, hoping for proof that your insight was nonsense. But life, with its poetic justice, exposed everything. They ignored your warnings and walked straight into the disaster you tried to prevent. The betrayal, the collapse, the dead end. Now they sit in the ruins, not just of bad choices, but of pride. And the worst part? They know it didn't have to be this way. But you? You never needed revenge. You never needed to win. Because true wisdom isn't about being right, it's about seeing clearly. And now they finally see. The one they dismissed was the only one who could have saved them. Number 9. You weren't just wise, you were a mirror. They didn't reject you because you were wrong. They rejected you because you revealed the truth about them. Your clarity reminded them of what they lacked: awareness, depth, vision. And instead of learning, they ran. Not from your words, but from the reflection they couldn't handle. They mocked you, dismissed you, not because you weren't speaking truth, but because facing the truth meant facing themselves. But time has a way of forcing self-confrontation. Everything they laughed at became reality. Every truth they denied became a lesson. And now, in the aftermath, they see you not just as wise, but as the mirror they once feared. The irony? You never judged them. You only saw clearly. But they weren't ready to face that clarity, so they made you the problem. Now they sit with the truth. Rejecting you didn't make them stronger. It only kept them blind. And the reflection they ran from was the very thing that could have set them free. Number 10. They had the map but chose the cliff. You warned them. Not to control, but to protect. You saw what they couldn't, and you offered them a way out. But they didn't take it. Not because the path wasn't clear, but because your clarity threatened their pride. Following your wisdom meant admitting you were right, and their ego couldn't handle that. So they laughed. Ignored. Walked straight into disaster. Now they sit at rock bottom, stunned by the very fall they swore would never happen. And your words? Still echoing in their minds. Not because you were loud, but because now, pain has made them listen. They finally see the truth. You weren't the problem. Their refusal to follow the map was. But now that they're lost, do they even deserve your direction anymore? Number 11. The regret hits hardest in the silence. Back then, they had so much to say. So many reasons why you were wrong. Now? Nothing. Because everything you warned them about has come true. The silence is deafening, filled with regret and pride they can't swallow. They want to say, you were right. But the shame is louder than their apology. So they stay distant, watching you thrive. Still walking in the same wisdom they once mocked. And it burns them. Regret doesn't come while there's still time to fix things. It shows up when the damage is done. When they realize they can't undo the betrayal, the arrogance, the disrespect. So they sit in silence, hoping you don't notice. But you do. You always did. And now, the only question left is, will you let them speak? Or is silence the only apology they'll ever deserve? Number 12. Time didn't change the truth, it just exposed the lies. They thought ignoring the truth would make it disappear. That if they dismissed you hard enough, it would stop being real. But truth doesn't fade. It waits. And while they mocked your insight, time proved every word. Now they're trapped, not by you, but by their own denial. What they swore would never happen, did. The warnings they laughed at became reality. The truth never changed, only their ability to deny it. They wasted time fighting reality, chasing pride, ignoring wisdom. And now? They're paying the price for what they refused to face. You never spoke to be proven right. You spoke because you saw. And now, as truth stands before them, you don't need to say, I told you so. The silence says it for you. Number 13. You weren't looking for validation. That's why you found truth. Most people don't seek truth, they seek acceptance. They shape their words to fit in. They trade clarity for comfort. But you were different. You didn't care about approval. You didn't follow trends, you followed truth. And that's why you saw what others missed. While they were performing for applause, you were thinking. While they chased belonging, you chased understanding. And in that solitude, you found what the crowd never could, clarity. They mocked you. Labeled you difficult. Not because you were wrong, but because they weren't ready to think for themselves. But now, the group they trusted has failed them. The comfort they clung to has collapsed. And suddenly, the one they dismissed is the one they need. Number 14. They see your value now, but you've already outgrown them. Back then, their approval might have mattered. Maybe a part of you even wished they'd understand before it was too late. But now, you've evolved. You no longer crave their recognition, and that's the twist. Just as they wake up to the truth, you've already moved on. They thought your worth depended on their validation, that your insight needed their applause. But you proved them wrong, without their help. You built. You rose. You saw. Now they scramble to reconnect, to be close to the wisdom they once mocked. But you don't need them, not for closure, not for revenge. Because you understand. Real value doesn't need recognition. The truth was always the truth, with or without their agreement. They sit with regret. You sit in peace. Because while they waited to see, you dared to know. You weren't speaking for applause. You were speaking from clarity. And now? You don't need to look back. Not from pride, but from growth. Because the wisdom that set you apart is the same wisdom that keeps you ahead. This was never about proving them wrong. It was always about seeing clearly. And now you walk forward, light years beyond where they left you. Join the community of visionaries who see through illusion. Subscribe so you never miss a moment of truth. Like if you've ever been ahead of your time. Share your story in the comments. Your voice matters here. And if someone came to mind while watching this, send it their way. Truth finds those ready to receive it, and you're one of them.